Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Light Gate. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we are on Roku, we are on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. For those of you on Rumble, please remember that if we start showing pictures, we'll do our very best to describe to you what's going on because I know you can't see it. Everybody else, welcome in. I want to tell you that we have somebody that we know dearly love on this channel with us. She's got her own show and our network. I also want to mention our sponsors for our network is Carnation. Thank you, Carnation, for being here for us. We really gladly appreciate you. Okay, so Preston, go ahead. Let's bring her in.
All right. Well, first, let me just introduce myself and you. You're watching The Light Gate, episode 104. We're moving right along. I'm your host, Preston Dennett, author, researcher, and experiencer. Not quite to the level of my co-host, the lovely Dolly Safran, fully conscious lifetime contactee, subject of my book, Symmetry, soon to be a sequel. We're working on that right now. Yes, so excited about our guest tonight. We know her quite well. We love her dearly. She's also on this network, Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. We'll talk about that, of course. Let me just say a quick hello to all you lovely folks in chat. We are so grateful that you join us each Monday evening. We have so much fun with you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see, who do we have here? We got people from all over the world. It's very cool. We have Lori Seawick from Portland, Oregon. First in line. Yep.
Hey.
Beautiful up there. It's one of my favorite places. Oregon and Colorado, I think. Well, Utah is really pretty too. What am I saying? Arizona is great. Georgia. If you haven't seen Georgia, you got to see Georgia. Okay. Who else we got? We have Renee Cruz.
Hey.
Emojis. That should be a band. Renee Cruz and the Emojis. Yes. Rest in peace, Pope Francis. Very poignant. He died the day after Easter. Wow. We have Teresa Levine. Hello. We have Scarlet Fire with some important advice. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do. So throw off the bowline, sail away from the safe harbor, and catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore, dream, discover. Oh, Mark Twain. It sounds like something he would say. Yeah. Yep. I've heard that before. People on their deathbed have more regrets about what they didn't do than what they did. So thanks, Scarlet Fire. We have Jay Kirschman from Virginia.
Hello.
Peak from Vegas. Peak.
Hello, Peak.
Always awesome to see you here. Kaleidoscope Eyes from East Tennessee.
Hello, Kaleidoscope.
And Louise from New Jersey. Just wanted to share my happiness. Found out on Easter that I'm finally going to be a grandmother.
Yay! Congratulations. Oh my goodness.
Okay, we can call you grandma from now on.
Yeah.
We got Ruth Kleiber.
Hi, Ruth.
And we have, did I already say Jay Kirsch? Yeah, I did. Okay. Shariz Bazila.
Hello, Shariz.
Yeah. We got Tennesseans. My best friend was from Tennessee. Now he's from the astral planes, alas. Let's see. Tim Houston. Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning. Yeah.
Or good afternoon, depending on where you are. We have Chris. We have Z Sun Dragon and Heidi Gold from Boulder. Yep, Colorado. So beautiful there.
Yep, been there. Yep.
Okay, who else do we have? We have Olivia.
Hello, Olivia.
And we have the Owl Man. Hope everyone is having a good start to the week.
Yep.
Yes, me too. You may as well, because, if you're not having fun, you're probably doing something wrong. It's kind of my motto, as you may know. Patsy Foister says hello to us and our guests tonight. Hello.
Hey, hi.
Hope you're doing well. A nice big crowd here. We have International Public Radio.
Hi.
We have the UFO god and extraterrestrials.
Hmm. Cool.
International Community for Alien Research, ICAR. Very cool.
Oh, very cool. Hi, guys. I know somebody there.
We have Shelley Wayne. We have Brian Morgan. Wishing everyone a nice weekend holiday. Yes, happy Easter all.
Yeah.
We have Denise Gaudreau.
Good roll. Huh?
That's almost the
Gaudreau.
same
Yeah.
name as my, let me see, my niece-in-law. Is that a word?
Yes.
From Connecticut. Very cool.
Nice.
Okay. Tim Houston. God made man, but a monkey supplied the glue. I can't say I've heard that before. Okay. Susan Alloway. Oh, Susan. Hope you're
Hi,
doing
Susan.
well. We have J.R. Amadeus Schiffer.
Hello.
What's up, Earthlings? And the Namaste of endless generosity and goodwill. We love you, Namaste.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Many, many thank yous and tidings and blessings. Thank you.
We have Carol Chen. We have White Dragon. We have Brenda Whelan. Nice big crowd today. This is awesome. Gizmo. All right, I'm out of my say hello time, so I'm going to just whiz through these last two. Corey from Merced. And we have Dana Matthews. Well, congratulations, Louise from Namaste. I'm so happy for you. I love
Yes.
kids. We have Prop Z from the UK. Let me see. It's been a while since I've listened to the show due to having no phone. Oh, well, I'm glad you're back. Nancy Hawk. Welcome, Carolann Iadarola. Carolann. Okay, we have Oreo. Okay, I'm sorry, Dolly. I'll get us online now. Peter, MSP, Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. Okay, we have a nice crowd. Thanks, guys. You're awesome. We love you very much. Let's get this show on the road. So, yes, first let me put up the banner so you can see how to spell our guest's name, because that last name is unique, Carolann. It's a good one. I like it. I love names. All right. Yeah, we're so excited. We love Carolann. She is our guest tonight, Carolann Iadarola. She does a lot of things. She's a researcher, a podcaster, an empath. She's done all kinds of really interesting things. We're delighted to have her. She received a BA in Media Communications and a Master's in Instructional Technologies. MED, is that what a master's is? I think so. She is the creative director and president of Sassy Townhouse Living, a lifestyle website collaborating with companies across the globe. And as she says, and I quote, "Hi, I'm Carolann, the owner and author of Sassy Townhouse Living. I'm very passionate about DIY projects, cooking, baking, makeup tutorials, decor, design, writing articles, and technology reviews. My mission statement is sharing the best of everything." But of course, that's not all she does. Carolann is also the creator and host of a YouTube channel called Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. It's awesome. Check it out. I've been a guest at least, 3 times. I know Dolly's been on it as well. She is absolutely a pro at this. And let's see, what do I have here? On Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, she collaborates with and interviews a wide range of authors and topics. After a lifetime of exploring high strangeness and living life as an empath, she embarked on a new journey with Ethereal Encounters Unveiled to share opinions, experiences, and powerful insights from authors, ufologists, psychics, and others who have stepped inside unknown universes. I like the way you put that, Carolann.
Oh, yeah.
She is a member and contributes live stream shows weekly on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, where we are right now, 105.3 and 107.7 FM, streaming from New Orleans. But regarding her podcast, again, Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, Carolann writes, and I quote, "I want to take a few minutes to explain this channel's objectives. My goal is to share riveting interviews and information with you so that you can discover the truth. Every week, I strive to interview recognized experts in their field so you can decide whether it resonates with you. and help you discover a pathway to new ideas and concepts. Step into a realm where mystery meets revelation, where the ethereal dances with the tangible, and where every moment holds the promise of awe-inspiring discovery. Carolann, you are a writer at heart. I'm bringing you in. That's wonderful.
Carolann, thank you for coming. You're here.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh my goodness. I see so many people. Michelle, hi, everybody. I thank you. I'm so honored to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we are too. It's absolutely a joy being on your show. You make it so easy. It's
Thank
so
you.
fun. You know, you're just a delight. So super honored and excited and delighted to
Oh my goodness.
have you as a guest.
Thank you, Preston. Oh my goodness. I'm usually the one saying all that and asking the questions, so it's very awkward for me. You'll have to forgive me.
Yeah, well,
Oh my goodness. No,
tables turned. You
right.
interviewed us, so
Yes, definitely.
aha. That's all I can say. Aha.
Is that what's called turnabout's fair play?
That's right. It is. It is
Okay.
definitely.
So we're just gonna have fun. We're gonna have a fun conversation. But I
Yeah.
know from reading your bio and of course knowing you fairly well that you've done quite a few things. And as I warned you, or as Dolly actually warned you in the green room, quote green room, I do love to start in people's childhood because I can't help it. Whenever I see a person as an adult, I immediately wonder what they were like as kids, running around in the sandbox, collecting pollywogs or climbing trees or whatever it is they did. And I can definitely see you as a little kid running around and exploring the universe. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how was that for you, and what brought you here to, this corner of the universe where you're exploring new ideas that are really cutting edge for the world right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I have to say, meeting you two has been life-changing for me. I've read several of your books, Preston, loved them all. I've gotten to know you both very well. Dolly, I love hearing your stories and having you explain wisdom. And I don't like really using the word truth because truth is so different and it's changing all the time. Like, I don't believe there is a singular truth. I think that, well, maybe there is, but because truth changes so much, even in science, it's tough for me to like use that word, but we'll use it just for the sake of it. But it's sometimes words are hard to express things that aren't easy to often express, but we'll do the best we can. I've always been interested in what we now call high strangeness, which I love.
Mhm.
I became familiar with that verbiage actually through this network. And it was always called, the paranormal.
Right.
That's what we called it. And I was always looked upon as the weirdo who was, even as a child, who was into this kind of stuff. Because, when I discovered that it was looked upon in a negative way, I became an introvert and I kept it all to myself.
Yep.
And that's just, for most of us, it's who are into this, it's been that way. And even in today's world, that things are changing for the better. And this is easier to talk about. And people are more familiar with things like NDEs and out of body experiences and whatnot. I still struggle with kind of talking about this to people. I've been blessed. I have people in my life that I love that I can talk to about these things. And it's not always easy. Now, my husband passed away 3 years ago. He was very easy, and he knew me for 47 years. I met him when I was like 18.
Wow.
And yeah, and he was very open to all of it. But other than that, it's been rough, even around my kids. I mean, my daughter more so, easier, but my son, forget it. My sister, not so much. So you guys know what
Yes.
it's not easy. It hasn't been too easy. But not that I'm complaining, because I love every minute of it. I loved every minute, and I still do.
Well,
But
you're part of a grand awakening, okay? You are
yeah,
an explorer, all right? And you have every right to do what you're doing. We're all autonomous beings. And
right.
a lot of people haven't caught up with that yet. But in the swimming through it all, you still got those who are on in your tribe. You know, we're all together, you know. So you're
Exactly.
not alone. You're not alone. And that's the most important thing to remember about it, you know. You can always make a phone call and say, "Hey, I just need to voice something today." And that's all you got to do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I feel so blessed being a part of this network too, because it's not, I mean, I love putting the information out there and asking the important questions that need to be asked, but the people connection, finding your tribe
Yeah,
and connecting is just it's a blessing. It really is.
it is.
So there, you know, that's like now in this point in my life, and especially being an empath, like I can remember as far back as 3, 4, 5, that when somebody would walk in a room, I would immediately know how they were feeling.
Yep.
Not really what they were thinking, but it was more emotional based.
Mhm.
And I thought everybody felt that growing up.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you discover that that's not, I mean, there are a lot of empaths, thank God, but it's been a tough ride, as you know, Dolly.
Yeah.
And it's again something that I've had to hide. And along with that, I've always been able to see auras too. And I never talk about that because people think you're insane. But
Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually the sane one. That's what's so ironic. This
Yeah.
is how we're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's not paranormal. You're normal. It's actually normal to be in that place. Everybody else is got the problems, and it's
We're all
flipping.
insane.
It's flipping now, you know. And it is a lonely journey. I admit that freely. It is a very lonely journey.
Well, being empathic is very difficult in today's world, I think, because there's a lot of negativity out there.
oh my word. I can't even like be in a restaurant sometimes. Like I've learned now how to shut things down when I have to, but sometimes like I'll be at dinner and I get so distracted by looking at people and just get, you know, I get like bombarded with what they're feel, and then I start thinking, oh my gosh, this one is experiencing something, and then I get so wrapped up in everybody else, and I have to like refocus myself back. And it's just so interesting how like empaths, when you can walk in and I'm sure you both know this, you can walk in an empty restaurant and 10 minutes later it'll be crowded.
Yeah.
Because I think people feel that vibration from
Yeah,
you.
they draw your energy. Yeah,
And
it's like a big bright light sitting in the middle of a room, and they go, "What is that?" You know. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the weirdest thing. If I go into a store, people will often walk up to me thinking I work there.
Yeah.
They're asking me questions. It's like, what? You know, I think it's because I look at people and smile, you know, and try to spread the love a little bit.
Absolutely.
You want to know when I got real impressed with all of this? Because before I came out, I didn't talk to anybody about anything. Okay, I kept it all to myself, mostly. You know, just family knew, and friends, some friends. And we went to it was after MegaCon. We went to, what's it called in San Francisco? Is it UFO Con? Preston that we went to? Yeah.
UFO MegaCon?
Yeah. And at the end of it, we all decided to go to the Waffle House. Okay. I mean, there had to be 30 of us from the thing. We all went to the Waffle House. Now, the people at Waffle House, there were probably 3 people in the whole place running the joint. They did not expect us to walk in. And we all went in there and boom, they were not only having to deal with all of us, but then other people started showing up. I guess they saw the parking lot or we were all having a good time. But really impressed me was we did not give a nothing about what anybody thought about what we were doing or talking about. We were loud. Okay. And I sat in the middle of that just going, ha, 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 ha. The tables are turned. This is totally cool. I was having a wonderful time. I just sat there and revved it up on it, you know, like, woo, this is very, very, very cool.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about being an empath is when you're in a crowd of like-minded folks.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like,
Exactly.
wow.
Yeah.
It brings you up to this amazing level of like unity.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely has positives to it. Unfortunately, I didn't really discover that until, you know, like my 40s. You know, it was mostly freaking me out because like I said, I thought most people experience that, but they don't. They don't. Most people don't. And the good thing is you learn how to put a barrier up, like a protective wall around yourself, because there's a lot of when you approach someone that's, say, fully negative or a negative person, you absorb that too. Like I would absorb that to the point
Wow.
where it wounds me.
Oh,
And not good. Like, and even if somebody yelled at me, like I'd be wounded for days. And people would, you're so sensitive. You're ultra. No, I'm not ultra sensitive. Like it wasn't that. It was the energy. Like it would do something to my energy level where it would take me like 2 days to recover from that.
Have you ever considered doing it a little bit differently, or walking a different way through that? Have you
In
ever
what
thought about that? Well, as an empath, as a psychic, I hear everybody thinking, and I can walk into a grocery store, and I used to, when I was younger, I did the 10,000-mile dash. I knew what I wanted. I knew exactly where it was. I would get in and get out, okay, as fast as I could, because I couldn't handle all of it. And one day I realized that my ability to charge up my abilities would push back any negative forces whatsoever. In other words, it wasn't the wall that I was putting up. I just became lighter and brighter on my own. In other words, what you see is what you get. And if you can't handle it, you better walk away from me, because I'm coming for you. And I would just walk through there with that, knowing that I was able to project out that way. And it helped me navigate. So instead of barriering, I became a navigator through that. Okay. And it didn't happen overnight. It took me a few tries, but I got better at it and better at it as it went along. And now people say, oh, you're so gregarious, you're so outgoing. And it's like, that's not what it is. I'm just navigating through all of y'all. And I love to talk to you. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to let your negative energy come through to me at all. And it's not a wall. I'm just going through you. I create a giant wake of energy that will push you away if you're that negative. And I don't have it. I'm not responsible for it. You are, because if you were positive, you'd get in with me.
Right.
Yeah. I think this works when you're at a party and suddenly you're like bouncing off some people, and you finally find your little group that you like, oh, I'm in this too, and me too. There's an extra, almost subconscious level of communication going on there, which, I think we're attracting people and kind of.
Yes. And I love that. That's the best part when you meet somebody that you can connect with on that level. But it's like anything else. You have to go through it and like learn how to defend yourself and how not to be so affected by things. And like I said, even with the auras, and I didn't know as a teenager, I didn't know what they were. I just thought everybody had those colors around them.
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was normal.
Than that. Yeah, I was like, how come you're so blue today? Or where'd the orange spots come from?
Deeper on that. When did you first start seeing colors around people?
I remember really young, like under 10. And then sadly, I think as I was having these experiences and not being able to talk about them, I started experiencing anxiety attacks as a young kid. And I remember the first one I had, I was 10. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, I feel really weird. And I was trying to explain. And my mother's solution to anything and everything that was wrong was have a cup of tea.
Oh, no. Okay.
So she would have a cup of tea, you'll feel better. Didn't work, but
it reminds me of that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Just use Windex. Cures everything.
It's so true. But it's funny thinking back on it all. And I hope that any of our listeners out there, a lot of anxiety that we have is because, you're not able to express and share these experiences with your family and friends. And for me, a lot of it came from that. And like I said, seeing auras, I thought it was normal. And when I found out it wasn't, it was weird because I just decided to stay in my room and read. So when I was like 15, 14, I went and bought every Cahill Gibran book that he wrote. Everyone.
Cahill Gibran?
Yeah, the poet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I just locked myself in my room for 75% of the day. Like went to school, came home, and just did that. And my parents got really worried, and they were like, "That's not normal, for her to be doing that." But it gave me such solace because I found a lot of that emotional support that I needed inside of books.
Yeah.
So I just, read my way out of a lot of it. And then, eventually you get to a place where you can be okay and you kind of snap out of that moment. But reading was very cathartic, and it really helped me a lot.
How old were you when you figured out what the auras meant? What it was actually? How old?
Probably about. I read Cosmic Consciousness by Buck.
Okay.
And through reading that book, I had the most mystical, again, something I don't talk about, probably just talked about once in my entire life. I had a very, what I call a mystical experience. I had the book, I was about 16-ish, and I was sitting on my front porch. I'd lived in Brooklyn at the time, as you can tell by my accent. And I was probably midway through the book, and I read this one passage, and all of a sudden I feel like almost embarrassed talking about it because I never talk about this stuff, like never.
We're privileged. Thank you.
I felt myself leave my body while I was awake, wide awake reading. Okay. And I left, and I had this download of information come to me. And mind you, it was probably seconds long, but it felt like it lasted forever. It was just the most bizarre moment.
Yeah.
And when I came back, I said, what in God's name just happened to me? Like I was absolutely clueless, never, ever experienced anything like that before. And what I kept doing was rereading the same passage to try to make it happen again.
Oh my God. Do you remember the passage? But
no, I don't. I still have the book. But for years, he was talking about consciousness. I remember that. And I tried rereading it over and over and over. And I got so frustrated that I just put the book away and I wouldn't pick it up for years. But then I started reading other things to replace it. But to me, it was like a mystical experience. It was wonderful. That's awesome. It felt magical, and it stays with me I don't know what fully I was given, but I really think that moment led to the rest of my interest in this topic. I think it kind of like drove me into this area of interest. And it made me what I like to look at myself as an observer. So, and I think that was a lot of the message. So I just decided to be an observer, and went to college, loved that. But then I met my husband, so I left college. Then I had kids, my 2 beautiful children. And then I decided to go back to school, like in my late 30s. And that's when I got my undergrad and my master's degree, and mostly in communications and instructional technologies, computers, stuff like that. But I just remember the most riveting message that I got from that moment was something about being an observer. Can't make sense of it, but that's what happened.
That's advice from many of the spiritual masters, that ultimately all you have to do is observe not only the outside world, but your inside world, and it will lead you forward. It's funny, what you're saying reminds me of something I read from another lady who spontaneously levitated. I wrote a book about human levitation, and this lady said she was reading a book that caused her to levitate.
Oh, wow.
Of course, I ended up buying the book. It's called The Gospel of Sri Yukteswar. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's basically the story of a biography of Eastern
Yeah.
guru type guy.
Yeah.
And she said as she would read it, she'd get that same feeling, would meditate on it, and suddenly she was floating in the air.
Yeah.
She got
Well,
really famous.
Yeah. One of the greatest pieces of wisdom that I was ever given has to do with the observer. And what it means is this. As you observe, you reserve your reaction to anything that you're involved in observing. And it's more important than anything else because it gives you time to absorb, think through, and then react. In other words, we're taught to be on the dime reacting to everything. Hi, Mom, Dolly, Violet Bear. That's my godson, Izzy. I love you, sweetie.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I have to.
All right.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He is I love this kid. So he's not a kid anymore, but yeah, we're not going to talk about how old I really am. So it's more important to be the observer, to understand, especially with you with communications. I mean, look what you do, what you did. Everything we do, we have to see it first, hear it first, smell it, touch it, taste it, and everything. And then think about it before we have a response. Some people are so in their own heads that they don't observe. They're busy overlaying everything they see with what they're talking to themselves about. And it's the first rule of existence in my book. I'm not kidding you, that we should all learn that, all of us. It's probably rule number one: be the observer, not the reactor. And so
this is how artists are able to paint beautiful pictures. When I took life drawing, they made us turn photographs upside down and said, draw everything upside down. That way you can actually see instead of what you think you're seeing.
Right.
It makes you a much better artist.
Yeah, reality is more in the observation than the reaction, you know?
That's a great analysis to think about, because, you know, when I had that download and came away with that, I was more frustrated trying to make sense out of it all, that it then later scared me. And I was like, what is that? Like, what happened to me after never really experiencing anything like that, what I call mystical experience? The only other time I ever had anything remotely close was when I read the Bhagavad Gita, which I probably am mispronouncing that. But that was another book that, I don't know, sometimes you can read a book and it can really transform you. It really can.
Yeah. Robert Monroe's book, Out of Body Journeys, completely changed my life forever. I mean, taught me how to go out of body. So,
that's how you learned?
Yeah. I want to draw the attention to the fact that you got a download. That's the universe giving you information that you really wanted. You realize that, right? And there's nothing to be afraid in that at all. And the universe is very chatty, and it cares about everything in the universe, the all mind. Okay.
It kind of like finds a way to get to you, whatever way it is, whatever modality.
And you had to be already open to it. In other words, it was the right time, you know? It's a very cool thing. And look what it spurred you on to do. I mean, that's totally cool, you know?
Thank you. I believe that, you know, there are no coincidences, that, you know, the only thing that's sad for me and has been is the inability until now, which I'm so thrilled to be able to share these things and stories and hear them. And that's why I love interviewing people too, because I get to sit back and pick your brains, like, and just get downloads from you guys. So it's been a blessing.
Well, thank you. And it's a two-way street. It works both ways. It really does. We're all connected to one another. We truly are. Psychically, intellectually, we're all one, all of us. And it is part of the waking up process where we actually walk into that and see it for what it really is. And it's almost a comfort. You know, it's comforting. I don't look at anything as weird anymore. I don't look at it as strange or something that I should be abhorrent against or whatever. I welcome all this cool stuff, and I just calmly work my way through it. You know, because nothing can really harm you. You know, nothing.
We're eternal. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. And it's more fun to be the explorer through all this and to really see it, touch it, hear it, taste it. It's all of it. It's very, very cool. And it's even more fun to like be this is like a really cool thing being on this channel and being at our network and everything, and knowing everybody here and being able to talk back and forth to one another in our network, is we can share and explore everything together, so that when we go on to another guest or another person who comes on our shows or whatever, we're just that much more prepared for the experience of communicating with them and getting through that too, and bringing more out to one another. I think that we're all real lucky.
Every person is a
good thing.
teacher. Every
Yeah.
single person you meet is a
Absolutely.
teacher. So we're here to learn, Carolann. That's what, you know what I mean? Every single
Yeah.
person you meet
Yeah,
is
totally.
part of the universe and
Yep.
has an important message for you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could be at the grocery store, like, and it's happened to me so many times, where you just start talking to somebody and all of a sudden they share something with you that can change your day.
Right.
It can change the way you thought about something. You can make a connection with someone, in 2 seconds if they're vibrating on the same plane. And I absolutely love those moments. But, and it's funny too, because as you get older, you start to not really care about what other people think about you. Like, I don't really have a problem now telling people what I do. And
Right.
because some people will be interested and they'll go, oh, tell me, who do you talk to? Who do you interview? What's it about? And those people are great because they're open. You can kind of explain things to them. But then sometimes you meet those people that shut you down right away. They hear even UFO, what? No, aliens, forget it. And like, they're out. So, it's good because you get to a point where you don't care. You're either in it or you don't.
sometimes those are the best teachers. Carlos
Yeah.
Castaneda, those books, which are interesting books if you've never read them, but he used a word called petty tyrant. Some of your best teachers are those who are kind of trouble for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That angry boss that's giving you hell.
Oh, I had a bunch of those.
You just have to be the observer and stand back and wait to react to that. Yeah. And just smile at them. Hey,
And that's what I basically did after that experience, so it was great in many ways because rather than shoot my mouth off and, I would just sit back and watch it unfold in front of me. And people took that for weakness. A lot of people took that for weakness, but I felt so empowered by being able to do that. So that moment was definitely given to me. And
Wow.
I'm totally grateful for whoever it was from.
Yeah, it's funny how people might perceive you in one way.
Yeah.
Another person might perceive you absolutely, completely the opposite. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're so emotional." And others like, "Have you no emotions?" Others like, "Gosh, you're so shy." "Oh, you're so outgoing." I realized that most of what people think about you reflects more on them, actually.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
They're
It's your
telling you
belief
their
system.
story, literally. It literally telling you their story when that happens. And
Oh, yeah.
So I'm curious, so you're having all kind of empathy experiences and seeing auras. What about like precognition or dreams that come true or deja vu or
A lot of those. A lot of those. I think the most profound one, I mean, I had a lot, but the most profound one that I had was my daughter was about 17, 18, no cell phones back then.
yeah.
And she decided to take a road trip with her friends. Long story short, I went to bed and 3:00 in the morning, I jumped up out of a deep sleep and I knew something happened to her. I knew. And it ended up, and again, this is long story short, it ended up that she was in a terrible car wreck exactly at that moment at 3:00 in the morning. And how I found her blew people's mind because she had amnesia from the accident.
Oh my.
She couldn't remember her phone number to call. It was a nightmare, but through intuitiveness, I knew which friends to connect to. The whole thing blew my mind. Like my husband would talk about that for years because he was playing poker that night with his buddies. And I called him up at this club that they had. And I'm like, Joey, Leslie Ann got in a bad car. He's like, you're nuts. You had a bad dream. Go to sleep. It was a dream. Like, it wasn't a dream. Well, obviously I couldn't go back to sleep, but stuff like that, I've had, impactful, intuitive moments in my life. And of course it's all connected,
Right.
It's all connected with being an empath, I think. Am I
right? I think we should do a national survey. I would love to hear from people about all the mothers out there who know when their children meet some disaster or something like that without being told about it. Just know. And because it's happened to all of us, I don't think there's a point in our children's lives that we don't know these things, And science has recently come out with the knowledge of why. When you're pregnant with your children, their little cells come across the barrier through the placenta back to you, and it makes all your stem cells start over producing. They create stem cells to go to all the places in your body that need help to boost up your health while you're pregnant with them. And then afterwards, after you give birth to them, those cells go back to another place in your body, and it's a node in your heart. They've actually identified which node it is, and they hang out there for the rest of your life. And it doesn't matter how many kids you have. If you have 5, you've got all 5 of those kids in that node in your chest. And it's almost like a biological connection, psychic connection to your children. It's like your tether to them.
Oh, you are tether.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one lady, she lost her son, and she ended up writing a series of channeled books from him. I think they're called the Michael books.
Oh, I think I've heard of those.
Yeah, they're really good. I read like the first 3, but there's a bunch of them. And she finally asked him, like, how are you doing this? How are we doing this? And he basically described what Dolly's saying in different words, just that we know each other so well. We're so connected that we're still talking.
Yeah, we're connected. Yeah. Everything that happens in my daughter's life, I know it. One big one that happened for me and her was I'm living in Atlanta somewhere. No, I was in Columbus, and she's in Panama City. And all of a sudden I got this horrible feeling. I felt like I was on fire, like it was hot. And I was like, where is this coming from? And she was like right there in my head. And I called the house, and her husband answered the phone, and he said, Mom, she knew you were going to call. And I said, what happened? He said, well, about 10 minutes ago, it was after Hurricane Michael. And I had left Panama City at that point and come and brought all the animals up. They were staying with me at my house in Columbus, and so that they could repair the house. And they were taking the fencing that was torn up and burning it in a big bonfire. She tripped and fell into the fire.
Oh,
and had 2nd and 3rd degree burns. And she's on the couch. I can hear her moaning. And he said, can I describe them to you? Can we send you pictures? And I said, sure. And he did. And I said, honey, those are 2nd and 3rd degrees. She's going into shock. You need to get her to the hospital right now. And he said, okay, that we needed that advice. And he said, we love you. Thank you. And in a meek voice in the background, I hear, I love you, Mom. I knew you'd know. And they hung up. And I was like, every emotion in the world is playing on me at that moment. And I was like, thank God she's okay. Thank God she's going to the hospital. Right. But I still had all of that on me still. And it took me days to walk through that one.
Boy, this gives me a good idea to write a whole book on this, because I know of other cases of this.
Yeah.
I've interviewed a lot of people, and this sort of thing comes up. I remember seeing one on TV, where a lady just knew she had to go out and find her son, and went driving around randomly. He had been in a plane accident, and she actually came upon the scene of the accident. I think that's what it was. It's one of those That's Incredible shows from years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
But I'm like, oh, man, she had no idea.
Yeah.
But she did. She absolutely knew exactly and precisely where he was.
Yeah.
Oh, those stories always blow my mind, especially when you've lived through it. Preston, you need to make note to self.
Yeah.
Write a book about that.
I won't forget about it. I won't.
Well, what about you, Carolann? I read your bio. You wrote that. I'm like, damn, you've got the gift.
Yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
You could write a book. I'll help you.
You know what amazes me is it shows us how completely naturally we are all connected, because men aren't excluded from this. Okay. Men are connected to their mothers, but men also have a psychic ability that is very unusual to me. Okay. Because they don't carry the cells, but the DNA is still talking, and their children are connected to DNA wise, and they still pick up transmissions from that. And there are just as many dads out there who know when their children are hurt as well. And you have to ask yourself, wow, the one to mom is very, very, direct line, but dad's got it too. And it amazes me. And it's like, we're all noding into one another, family wise, everything.
What did you call me a node?
Yes, you're a node.
Okay.
Okay, we're all nodes
Take it
to
as a
one another.
compliment.
We're psychic nodes, right?
Right.
We're psychic nodes to one another, and our communication is absolutely. Michelle likes to talk about the fact that if you think about something that nobody's ever thought of, and you think about it really, really hard, and you go over it in your mind every day, every day, every day, it will suddenly show up in public, and people, or it'll start in your area, and it'll be on the TV or whatever, and it's like you can start a trend that way just by psychically thinking something over and over and over again. And it just goes to prove how connected we all are and how we are hearing one another without realizing it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
When people say, "Oh, I wish I could be psychic like you," and hear people thinking, it's really hard for me to say this with a straight face. Well, you do, you're just not listening. That's my point. We need to listen more through this.
Well, that brings me to my next question, Carolann. Having lots of experiences with empathy and being able to turn it off, what would be your advice to a person who wants to become more empathic, and what would be your advice to someone who's like, this is too much, how do I deal with this?
Oh, I have a good answer for that. I was given a message a while ago to pay attention, and those two words really impacted me in a great way. After that, I've heard it several times, like and it's not like a schizophrenic kind of voice. It's like an intuitive kind of voice. I have to make that distinction. I don't hear voices. But those two words, pay attention, have made a big impact in my life. And I don't know, maybe that has something to do with the observer in me as well. Yeah, I guess it would. It kind of correlates, right?
Sure.
But I think, and I find it frustrating because sometimes people don't, and like you said, Dolly, they don't believe in their own innate abilities. We're all intuitive. We're all psychic. Some, of course, more than others. And this is a journey. Like, even for me at my age, I'm still learning how to be more psychic and more, because they're tools for me. And not that I want to change subjects, but that's why I get so frustrated over the fluoridation of water, because I feel like, and you know this very well, we've spoke about this before, Dolly, that blocks our abilities to use these gifts. But now they're supposedly going to, some states are actually taking it out of the water,
right,
which is great.
Yeah.
Somebody in Washington who's talking about making it a rule, a law, which I hope they do, because it is not good for us. They tried to say it was good for our teeth. I think it's like big pharma. Personally, it's just them trying to get us to go to the dentist more and cause problems that way. There are whole countries in Europe that don't use fluoride at all, and they're way better off than we are where that comes in. And I think it's time. We need to get rid of it. Absolutely.
But so that whole thing, we could have a whole conversation on that. Another thing that helped me in both ways to teach me how to kind of use this, I don't like to use the word wall, but use like a barrier, that I had to do that, was meditation. I took TM when I was like 17.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I remember like learning about it when it first came out, and I'm like, this is it. This has to be the answer. And it did make a huge change in my life in terms of enhancing my empathetic abilities, but learning how to protect myself as well. So we kind of worked both ways. So if anybody wants to enhance their abilities to be able to, and I say this with precaution, because you don't want to put yourself out there too much, because like I said before, it's rough. It's rough when you can't walk in a department store that's crowded and not feel like you're having a panic attack, because you're just feeling all this energy from all the different emotions from people.
Which I think is a lot of what autism actually is. People are just extraordinarily empathetic to the point where they can't do that.
Exactly. Well, have you watched the telepathy tapes at all? I just started watching them, and It's crazy. What
Yeah,
you
those
know?
are going viral. Apparently, it's an idea whose time has come.
Right. That's
Well,
when that's why I would like to push for everybody to understand that it is you're in control of that. And you don't
right.
necessarily need to put a wall up because you wall off your abilities when you do that. Just saying. Okay.
Probably.
You can't isolate. You have to let it through. But what you have to learn how to do is go through it. In other words, your ability is sufficient enough to create an energy wake in front of you, behind you, on top of you, all around you, where none of that can come and take you out. Okay. And you actually end up pushing negative stuff away. I know I've talked to people over the years come to me, when we have medium abilities,
Mhm.
people are always asking you questions and stuff. And one of the things that I learned early on, just on my own actually, was that when we say fear, I mean fear is the big deal here. Okay. If you're afraid of something, you are literally opening a door. You're not shutting a door. Fear does not protect you. Fear opens the door. Okay. And it gives that whatever it is a chance at you because it owns you at that moment. You're afraid of it, and that's the door open to it. What you have to do is realize that nothing can harm you. You're an energetic being, and your energy is sufficient to repel that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And make it, nothing dark can survive light. Nothing. It goes
Right.
away. And you have a light. We're all light beings, all of us, and you have the ability to turn up the volume on that. Okay. It's not a frequency because your frequency is your frequency, but what you can do is turn the volume up, make your light big. Trust me, it's not going to touch you anymore. It's going to go away from you. And once you understand that that's what you're employing, that's the wisdom that you have, you don't even have to think about it. You're so already operating in that way. It's like, a ballet dancer, right? She has to work how long to be on point, right?
Oh,
On
yeah.
her toes. She has to learn to move her body a certain way. She has to hold herself erect. She has to do everything she does. But look what happens to her when she does. And look at the energy she creates around her with that. We have to learn to adopt the impassive, passive, and aggressive methodology of that kind of training that a ballerina goes through. And it's
Yeah.
a daily thing. You do it every day. You practice turning the volume up on yourself. You practice walking through
Well, that's true in every creative pursuit, whether
right.
it's singing or writing or just living life, period.
Exactly. That way you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to hold your breath. You don't have to be anxious or anything because it's not going to touch you. Okay. It's going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
Now, I know that we live in a time where people have become physically aggressive toward one another, but it does help you to keep that turned up, that energy turned up, and to remember not to put yourself in that position to be in that place. Um, everything happens to everybody. We're all here to experience whatever we're here to experience, but at least you have the ability to arm yourself with that. You don't need the wall, you just need the light. And it's powerful. I mean, it's really, really powerful. And once you experience that, your autonomy opens up on you as well. When I say the word autonomy, most people say, well, what does that mean? It doesn't just mean that you're free. It means that you are living free.
Yeah.
They're
Oh, I love
all
that.
different. You can understand that you're free, but you have to live it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like you said, Caroline, a good way to actually overcome fear is to simply observe it.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at your
right.
fear.
Yeah.
Kind of step away from it.
Shine the light on it. Take a look. Yeah, turn the light up and look at it. Trust me, it will go, oh, sorry, bye, I see it. I don't like this. It'll leave
Now,
you
another
alone.
interesting thing, a lot of it is like where you grew up too, and like for instance, I was born in New York City,
Mhm.
raised in New York, and growing up in the city, you need to become invisible. Like that's something you learn real fast. And it's
Yeah.
funny because even when I go to the city now, I automatically make myself invisible. I don't want to be seen by people. It's not safe. So learn how, and most New Yorkers learn that skill. And I learned it at a very young age because I was always taught, don't look at anybody in the eye, keep your head down, make yourself invisible. And, these things were impacted into me at a young age. And I used that for the same thing for protecting myself against other people's feelings and emotions. And whatever energies they were exuding, I used that same like technique to protect myself. So it kind of came in handy, really.
Yeah, I learned how to do that because I wanted to stay up late and watch TV with all the adults.
Right.
They'd suddenly see me. They'd be like, "Have you been there the whole time?" I'm like, "What?"
That's funny.
Yeah.
But that, and a lot of it comes, especially on the subway. He said that's so true. And I had to take the subway a lot. So yeah, you learn these, and again, it depends on where you were raised and how you grew up. There's certain skills that you learn depending on where you're at. And some of them I put to good use in other ways. So, but for people that want to like enhance their empathy, that ability or their intuitive ability, I think meditation really was a big one for me. The only thing that happened to me in the beginning, I started meditating a lot, like twice a day, 20, 30 minutes a day. Then it went to 3 times a day, where like my husband was getting annoyed, like, are you meditating again? But it really makes a big difference. But then one day, everybody was out of the house and I was meditating and I was really deep into the zone. And all of a sudden I felt, and what I call, I'm just using my verbiage, it felt like a negative entity sat next to me, like something not good. Let's put it that way. And when I felt that, it started to almost connect with me, I guess, because I was in that deep meditative state. And it freaked me out so badly that I stopped meditating for like years after that.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I didn't, and I couldn't talk. Who was I going to talk to? It was like, back then, there was nobody that you could say, hey.
Actually, there was somebody you could have talked to. It was called that it right then and there on the spot. If you have a negative entity enter into with you, the very first thing out of your mouth is, "You're not welcome here. Move your ass out of my space now." That's who you talk to. You tell it to take a hike. You don't
Right.
act afraid of it. You immediately go after it. Do not. You are not welcome here. Leave now. That is instead of laying there in total fear and panic and then not being able to tell anybody about it because they'll think you're crazy. It's getting more out of you by you doing that. You're giving it the handshake still. Trust me, if it ever happens to you again, meditation is not the enemy. That was an enemy, and you should have said, hike off now.
Right now, I have a big mouth now. When I need it, and I didn't have it. Now my mouth doesn't stop. But one of the good things that I learned how to do when I went back into meditating was I pictured myself in this egg of light, in this beam of light. And that worked. And ever since I started doing that, I never had that problem again. So I mean,
you just did what I was telling you should do. You turn up the volume on your light. You put yourself in the light.
Well, I remember the first few times I met negative entities out of body, I just went straight back into the body. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Finally, I learned how to, like, okay, I'm just going to stand my ground.
Yeah. You told us a story about one when you were in an OBE, Preston, that grabbed your leg, that green slimy fingers. And what did you do? You went back, you left that level. And then
that one, I just peeled its fingers off and went on my merry way.
Right. You went on your merry way.
So here's another question. I don't know why this keeps coming up in my mind, but I'm super interested in past lives. And I think most people who, have some empathy, empathetic experiences, intuitive experiences and stuff have some idea about their own past lives. So I'm curious, Carolann, what do you think about past lives? Do you have any memories of that? What do you think you might have done in past lives? What is your whole viewpoint on past lives?
Well, very interestingly, my whole life, it's like embarrassing, but it's not embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about. I always knew, even from a young age, that I was unjustly drowned, accused of something I didn't do. And I always had that feeling as a kid. And again, because of that, it made me, another big reason made me be the observer, because I just wanted to be invisible. I didn't want to be seen. And I was like the good kid. I have a brother and sister. They would get yelled at and punished, and I was just the good kid all the time because I made myself invisible. But I felt in a past life, back decades ago, I probably as young as maybe 13, 14, I started really getting those vibes. And again, I buried it. I would never talk about, God forbid, you never talk about that stuff. But geez, my mother would have thought I was insane, put me away. But interestingly, about a month ago, no, in January, I had a quantum healing session with a dear friend, and I actually did a video on it. If you guys are interested, you really need to go watch it. It's on Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. It just aired like last week.
Ooh.
And
Okay.
I found something really amazing during that session. Because one of the things you do in those sessions is look at past lives. If that happens to come to you, it doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And it turned out that we found out that I was accused of witchcraft, placed in a cage, and unjustly drowned. And then around that same age that I discovered that, back as a child, I developed asthma. So like I kind of correlated the two, not being able to breathe, being drowned, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have a dumb question. Do you swim?
Oh, yeah.
You love to swim? You love the water?
I don't do it enough, but I used to love to swim. I mean, every summer, that's what we did. We,
Okay.
swam.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of cases of past lives being tied to physical illnesses, and
Yeah.
people who recover a past life and the illness or whatever it is goes
Exactly.
away. So I think there's definitely something
That was
to
one
that.
of the hopes that we had for the session, for the quantum healing with Candace Craw Goldman. She's fantastic, by the way. She did a session for hours, and that was one of the things that kind of freed me in a way, because I always felt like, hate using the word victim again, but I felt victimized by having asthma, and having to take medicine for it and stuff like that. And that session kind of freed me from that. So I don't look at myself as like a victim anymore. I think it was just encoded in my DNA now. I really believe that from a past life.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yeah.
And one of the things that amazes me is karma has a lot to do with how we what things that come to us and what we go through on this life. And victimization is one of the top three, I think.
Yeah.
And we come back over and over again to relearn or reissue ourselves that lesson so that we finally walk away from it. Because everything we do has a reaction. There's either an equal or opposite reaction to everything that we do, say, think, all of it, even thinking. Okay. And it's amazing when you go back into your past lives. I've talked to lots of people, and I'm real interested in like who you were. Did you get anything out of that life besides the fact that you were drowned? Because most people go right to the end incident, and that's what's affecting them the most. But they don't want to slide into who you were before that. What was going on in your life before that?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of stuff prior. I mean,
yeah.
Aside from that session I had, my when I was about, gosh, I was married, my kids were young, and I met a bunch of pagans.
Mm-hmm.
They were wonderful people. They, I just connected to them. They weren't like, I don't think they called themselves witches. They just called themselves pagans. And as soon as I started having an interest in talking to these people, where I lived in Brooklyn, in the neighborhood, I was chastised immediately for even going in their bookstore. And that's how I met them. They owned a bookstore. And they were into candles and incense and all that wonderful stuff. And herbs. And they were teaching me a lot about a lot. And people in my neighborhood started like You can't be hanging out with them. Don't go in that store anymore. So, it had a negative connotation for me my whole life. And again, made me just kind of be invisible. And sadly, back then, I mean, it's so different now. And thank God it's different. It's so different now.
Yeah. It's a good thing that everything that came before is already done with. You can't walk back into that. It's over.
Right.
Now you're bringing forward to you right this very second of our existence, like us right now, is all of your experiences and how you feel about them and how you're pushing through them or learning from them or not learning from them. It's everything is all today right now. And it's interesting to look back, but it's also more valuable, I guess is the way I'm going with this, is it's more valuable to be able to go, I am not that, I'm this. And this is what I'm doing. And I'm in it. Nobody thinks of themselves anymore as in a safe space. We don't need a safe space to go to. It's already in us. We're already full of that. You're perfectly safe in your own skin. Okay. You are. And people don't think that way. And we need to get to that. I think that's number 2 in the karmic thing, is being able to be who you really are, and everybody's got opinions. Everybody's trying to tell us stuff. And it's like, excuse me, I do not value that opinion. I don't tell it to them. I just say, I do not value that opinion. Okay. It's an opinion. It isn't life. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't value it. And if you want to have a conversation with me, then you can think of something else to say to me. Otherwise, we're done conversing today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you move on from that. I don't give anybody permission to assault me with their negativity. And that is negativity coming at us. We're good at it.
Yeah, that's where social media just goes completely haywire. People, all these random trolls, who you don't have no idea who they are, hiding behind an avatar saying just awful things.
Yeah, and it's
what is wrong with you?
I know. Well, it's because they were taught that. They were taught to be that way. And they're not being their authentic selves. I love to say that word. I like that word. It's a good one. Whoever thought to say that word the first time, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. We are authentic people. You have an authentic identity, and your autonomy is in that. And if anybody has something to say to you, and it goes against who you are, and it goes against what you think or how you feel about things, you need to say, you know what, I'm not going to attack you about this. I'm not going to call you the one who's gaslighting me, but I will tell you that is not what I'm about. And I'm still in control of myself and what I'm doing with my life. Thank you very much. And move on, and
Absolutely.
and it's some people get real upset and won't talk to you for weeks, but it's like it's on them. If you've got nothing better to do than worry what I'm doing, you got another thing coming. You need to go worry about yourself. That's my last line to people like that. I just say, I'm not the one here who's having issues. You are. You need to go look at yourself and look at what you're doing, what you're saying to you, because you're blurbing it all over everybody else like you have some authority over it, and you don't. We are not. You have no authority over me. None. I'm living my life. I promise that I won't hurt you. I promise I won't step on your head, or I won't, make your boss think you're an idiot, those kinds of things. But I'm still my authentic self, and I'm going to live my life as I know that I should. And if we all did that, if we paid attention to what's wrong with us from our point of view, from us knowing that we need to fix things for ourselves, and not listen to what everybody else is telling us wrong, because they're wrong. They don't know you. They couldn't possibly.
This is what the movers and shakers in society do. They have confidence in their own selves, their own, knowledge.
Right.
This is how people change the world.
Right.
Absolutely. One other good thing about being an empath is we love big. We love big. So, like, if I love you, you better watch out, because I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah. I said that right before you said it. I caught it.
But it's true, it's true. Like, even, with my own children and my husband, God rest his soul, anybody in my bubble, in my sphere, if I love you, I'm all in. And I'm not going to betray you. I'm not, I'm going to do everything in my power to love you with every fiber of my being. And I expect that in return.
Right.
And if I don't get that in return, I'm out, like, and I have a best friend. Like, I don't need 10 best friends. Like, I have one best friend for 35 years and I love her dearly. I mean, I have many friends that I know and have lunch occasionally with or whatever, but it's funny how you connect with that one person. She knows that about me. I know that about her. And she's an empath too. So
Of course she is.
yeah, of course she is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find that person,
So what moved you from being sort of this introvert, invisible, I don't want to talk about it, to, you know what, I'm going to do a podcast.
I know. It's crazy, right? It's funny. God, I think you're got some serious intuitive things going on, because I was just thinking that a minute ago. Like, how can I explain that? It makes me feel at home. Does that sound weird, Dolly?
No, not at all. No, you're doing that's what you do to be at home. That's the whole point. You've moved
Exactly what
in your
Dolly's been
life.
talking about.
Exactly what I'm
Gotta
talking
be
about.
you.
You gotta be you. It's
Gotta be
important to
me.
at
Not a
home
song.
in you. And if you're on a podcast and you're talking to people and that's you, how you feel about what you want to do, that you're at home. Of course you are. Put the coffee on. I mean, that's it. You just brilliantly explained it. It's perfect.
It's a big darn step, though.
Yes.
That's going into the public eye.
It's huge. And I'll tell you, I don't know where I got the gumption to do it, because I remember back in college, my first class that I had to get up and give a presentation, I had a panic attack talking to people and just doing that in a classroom of 30 people. My poor professor was like, here's some water, you'll be okay. So I've come a long way in that regard, but being able to ask the questions and it's almost, even though it's through the internet, I feel the vibe. I feel.
Sure you do. Of course you do. Yeah.
Well,
I don't need to be in the room with you to pick up on you. I really don't.
Exactly.
If I'm looking at you, I'm on you all over the place.
Right.
What's also cool is that knowledge is everything. And when we have guests, we look up things, we interview them prior to them coming on. In other words, we read up about them, we look at stuff they've done, anything they've written. You want to know who you're talking to before you get to them, so that you don't sit there going, how can I have a conversation with you? Right. And it also gives you a chance to vet who you want on also. In other words, we're looking for people to interview, no doubt. And a lot of people come and say, well, we'd love to, be on your show and tell our story. And that's good too. But we still do our homework. We get to know you, so that we know what to ask you. We know which way to drive the interview, because that's what interviewers do. They're trying to bring out in our interviewee the conversation that we're hoping to accomplish with them. And that is not to make them say something, but to allow them to give their story in a way that they feel comfortable and that they can. That's the whole point. You want to give them that platform. Open your mouth. Go ahead. Let's have some fun with this. Yeah.
And it's also important because, again, I found the importance of asking the questions became more important than getting the right answer. That's what I meant about truth before. It's not necessarily in the answer, but in the asking, in the asking of the question. Because then you open up this whole dialogue.
Yes.
You got, even now, you got this whole conversation going. The energy's flowing. And that's what it's about for me. So people make me laugh. They go, oh, you must make a lot of money on YouTube. If I could buy $100 at the end of the month, I'm doing good. So it's not about money. Trust me. You have to get millions of views to make any serious coin, and people don't understand that. So, when people donate, like I see your lovely people donating here and there, that means the world. Right. Yes. And people don't realize that, because we're spending hours, like the amount of research that I do. Like next week, folks, this week, I'm interviewing Nick Pope. So please Join Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And I have to
It'll
plug.
be a good one. I'm
Yeah.
going to be in the chat room. I bet you Michelle is too.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, it's going to be a party in there because this is
Yes.
a big thing for you
Plug-
and for everybody.
definitely plug. What time is the show?
It's 5 to 7
All right. And is it
Yeah.
what day?
Eastern Standard Time, Thursday.
Thursdays.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'm going to blast it all over my social media too. So if I didn't start doing that already, but yeah, because I love Nick Pope. I think he's such an authority on this subject, of, gosh, Dolly, your life story, basically, UAPs, UFOs. And I'm sure a lot of what they say you don't agree with as well. And I'm sure 90% of it, but it's just interesting to start the conversation and get,
Yeah. It's not that I disagree with them. I understand. You want to hear something phantasmagorical to me, where everybody's concerned? If you tell me something, I'm going to think about why you said it. Okay. And I'm going to try to ascertain in my mind where you were when this came to you like this. How did this knowledge get to you? And follow the dots, follow the trail to where it is. You can't fault people for repeating or saying things in their journey in life. It's their experience. Not all experiences are live and in person. Some of them come to you from other people. And so I watch how information flows is what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
And
once again, you learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Whatever they say, you're learning from them.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's taught me a lot, literally taught me a lot, because I now have a wider understanding of why people say what they say. It's not that I'm telling you, it's not because of anything other than whether they're right or wrong. It has to do with the path they took to get to that information,
Absolutely.
And one of the things, and I'm going to bring this up because you brought it up earlier, there is truth, okay? But truth is subjective.
Yes.
All right. But what there is data, knowledge, empirically, and not all knowledge is perfect. It's almost imperfect when you're first learning knowledge or data, because it's like, the old onion story, there's layers to everything, and you can't really understand something till you see or understand the entire picture that you're looking at. You're going from 2D to 3D to 4D to 5D, all the way up to 12D. Okay. Knowledge is that way. And people are trying really, really hard to bring in their data, what they know. Whether it's empirical or not, it's up to us to discern and decipher. And that's my point empirically. I say, when I say something, please do not take what I say as gospel. It's not. I want you to prove it to yourself. I want you to look up the data and prove it to yourself. It's not my business to prove to you anything. You have to prove it to yourself. I'm just giving you my data. And I hope that everybody does that. That's what I hope. And I think that's what everybody should hope. So when Nick Pope comes on, I'm going to listen to every word he says. Okay. When everybody else is talking, trust me, Preston can tell you, I listen to people all the time. Okay. I hear what they have.
That's one of the things I think we've both, and probably all three of us, have learned from doing this kind of thing is you broaden your horizons. You consider a lot more new ideas. You really kind of step back and go, perhaps, there's a lot more to learn.
100%. But I used to think that math was the only truth, really. Math.
Yeah.
Because you can't really argue with math. You can't really, it is what it is.
There's a wonderful truth to math, isn't there?
Exactly. Right. You got the Fibonacci code and the whole, it just is. It's part of nature. It's who we are. It's embedded in our DNA.
You can break down the entire universe just about.
Absolutely.
Except maybe emotions. I don't know if you can.
But you have to be able to speak the language. That's the point.
Right.
And not everybody understands the language at the same point, at the same time. There are different levels of understanding, even in math, because you go from one level of math to another, to another, to another. And now they're into quantum. They know they're starting to see things in the quantum ranges and stuff like that. And not everybody's up on that. They're all trying to get there. And people don't realize that there's something even beyond that. Okay. It's language. And we have to learn to speak that language. And to do that, we have to consider not letting other things take our focus away from our communication with one another. That's the important thing. And that's like you took in school, I find fascinating because you're a communicator. You took communication, and you of all people know that we don't say things that are understood by everybody because everybody's thinking something while you're talking. They don't
Yeah.
hear every single word you say exactly, and they're going to overlay it with what's going on in their heads. It's imperfect communication when we're talking to one another. Even here, I have people come back all the time and ask me the same things multiple times because they really didn't get it the first time. And I say, go back and watch it again. Listen to what I said before and then ask me later.
Right.
Try to hear what I said then, and then we'll communicate about it after. We have to understand that this is the business of education. This is the business of becoming wise. This is the business of understanding and utilizing all our abilities at the same time so that communicating with one another becomes empirical and we all hear the same data at the same time and can communicate it back and forth to one another. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the most important part of this. That's what's difficult about this. We have whole societies on this planet who have been pushed away from that, and we all need to teach each other and ourselves to walk back toward it.
Absolutely. Like I was taught the scientific method was everything, and I remember when string theory came out, and it was all about string theory. Right now they're debunking string theory, and it's all about quantum physics, and that's great. And so, science is constantly evolving and changing.
Right. We're all learning together. This is our big pool to learn. That's right.
Absolutely. I love that. That's brilliant.
So we haven't even brought up UFOs. So I know, well, this is a subject, of course, dear to Have you seen one ever? Or, have you had any experience?
I have not. I have seen lights in the sky that were questionable. And it's such a source of contention. Like I know, Dolly, you told me, speak to them and they will come. Like that movie, right? If they will hear you, what's that movie? You say it.
Field of Dreams.
Right.
If you build it, they will come.
And they will come. Yeah. Yeah.
Ask and you shall receive.
I'm building it.
Yeah, knocking it shall be opened up into. You know what? You don't even need ET, honest to gosh. You don't need ET, especially don't need ET to get your answers because like you learned, like we talked about earlier, the universe is an all mind. It's very chatty. And if you just want something, it will give it to you in a download. That's because it's all mind. It's thinking constantly all the time and it can talk to us. We just got to shut up and listen. Okay. Yeah. And it's amazing to me what you can learn just by doing that, And
if you see lights in the sky, those could be UFOs. You might just be a little, I think some people are just want a little bit, something that's not ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because when I started seeing lights in the sky, I'm like, no, it's not a UFO. That's a light in the sky.
Yeah.
I wanted it.
I know. Yeah, I have not.
Right now, that, though. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm right near the drone because I'm about I could walk to New Jersey.
Wow.
So I'm right near the drone where all that drone stuff. So we got an influx of the drone sightings here. So I was constantly going outside taking videos. I saw some drones, and I know the difference between a drone and lights that look a little peculiar, that are not drones. So, but I mean, even with the drones, the government's saying that they're releasing the drone, that they're governmental drones. I don't believe that necessarily, but I don't know what they are, but they're still out there and they'll still, I still see them at night. They're still flying around.
I don't believe the government when they say anything on this subject.
No.
Unfortunately, because that's their own fault. They've lied too much.
Yeah. Well, they've sitting on knowledge that they should have shared with everybody already in all aspects of it. I mean, it's not just about ET. It's about everything. It's everything that they've said and done and what they already know and what they've developed. They're not talking to us.
Yeah.
And that's travesty. That's a huge
Even
travesty.
corporations are not truthful because, that might cost them their bottom dollar, bottom line.
See, that's avarice talking. Yeah, oligarchy. Yeah, you want to talk about an oligarchy? There you go.
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
He who owns knowledge rules the planet. That's how they think.
How long have you been doing Ethereal Encounters Unveiled? And what's your favorite guest?
Oh well,
or some of them, or one of them.
My favorite guest, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here, but it's you and Dolly. Like,
Stop.
let's get real. It's definitely you two. I mean, I love interviewing Michelle.
Yeah,
Love
she's really
One of
amazing.
my
isn't she?
favorite people on the planet. Yes.
She's up there with you, like neck and neck with you guys. We started doing conspiracy theories once a month. We do a show.
I love that.
And
I watch y'all. I'm there a lot. You don't know it, but I don't
Wow.
always tell you I'm
Say
there, but I'm there. Yeah.
No,
love
you guys
that
are unfiltered. It's amazing to watch. It's like, okay, let's just let it hang out. Let's bring this up.
great. I have so much fun doing them. We're getting part 3 ready. So I absolutely adore Michelle is to me a godsend. Meeting her, connecting with her, and aside from you two, of course. But yeah, so I've had a lot of I love interviewing Peter Pangione, NDE.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I was enthralled for the whole 2 hours, sitting there like this, just listening
Yeah.
to him about his NDE. I love talking about NDEs. My favorite topic is definitely like UFO, UAP stuff. I love that's like my all-time love. Love that. So that's why I'm so mad they won't invite me aboard their ship. Take me away.
You may have been on board. It's just not, you'll
Yeah,
remember at some
I
point.
don't remember it, right?
Yeah.
Although, Dolly, if you don't mind me saying this, Dolly did come to me one night because I heard her. I asked Dolly, I said, please come and visit me like at night. And the house is nice and quiet. Didn't happen for like 2-3 weeks. Then all of a sudden I'm in bed and I hear Carolann, and it was your voice. Like
Yeah.
you have a distinctive voice,
Yeah.
Dolly.
I know.
I knew it was you.
It
And I
drives me
jumped
crazy,
and I
but yeah.
went, Dolly. Like, I said, if anybody saw me, they'd think I was nuts. But
We
that
had a
was great.
conversation right afterwards. Yeah, admitted it to you. That's right. I look for moments when I tell you I'm going to come and see you. I will show up right away. Okay, but I have the ability to know when you're going to be more receptive to it when you're open. I don't impede on anything that you OBE or you're working on. That's not my place to do. And even though, like, I could conscript a time with you, but then that doesn't always work either because I have a life too, and sometimes things happen that I have to pay attention to. So I look for the opportunity, and it took about 2 weeks to get there. And I realized that you were there, you were lucid, you could have heard me, and I went for it at that moment. I was like, okay, she hears me, I can talk. And that was Carolann. Carolann.
And I know I wasn't dreaming. I know I heard your voice. It was distinct as could be. So that was totally awesome. Thank you for that. But now, like when I've been doing this for such a long time, way before I became part of the network, I would go out at night and just talk and say, hey, I'm here, I'm open, I'm willing to see you, I'm willing to listen. Nothing, crickets. So now I just I walk my dog at night and I'll go like, hey guys, I won't make that much of an effort. I will acknowledge them and hope for the best. And that's all I could do.
Some night when you're meditating, intend that you're going to be real quiet. In other words, shut your mind down, your thinking process. And I want you to put one question out to them, like identify what group you want, like the tall grays, if you want to talk to a tall gray or whatever, whoever you're inclined to speak with, and say, I have a question and I would really, really like confirmation of being told what the answer to that is. And intend for that to happen because you're in a deep meditative state. You've opened up your mind to it. You're allowing the information to come in. When you're walking the dog, you're experiencing everything around you. You're not really focused. Okay. And it's really hard to hear when you're not focused because you have all this going on. So do it in meditation and see if that helps. Okay.
Gosh, that's such a great idea. I never thought about that. I'm going to try it.
Okay. You should.
Awesome.
Okay. Okay.
Well, An angel fluttered by. That's what my sister would always say if there was
Yeah.
silence.
I know. Flitting around the living room tonight in the living room back there. I've seen something's flitting around behind Preston.
Yeah, I saw a light on your dresser.
I thought I saw it. Was that your dog?
No, I saw a light at your dresser. I have a dog back there, yeah.
Yeah, I thought I saw your dog.
But no, I saw a light too. Let me see. It would be your left.
Yeah.
A while back, right on your third knob of your dresser.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that? I don't know.
Somebody's around. Yeah. But it went, honest to God, I see everything, okay? So it was with Carolann first on the left-hand side, and then it was over your left shoulder by the bookcase. And you were paying attention to the dog, but I swear one time it went right behind your head, and you went like that when it did. So you need to look for that too. I saw it.
Oh, I will.
And it's the same thing between the two of you. I'm like, wow, look at that. So yeah, bring it up.
Play that back and let me know if you see it. One night I was interviewing a psychic, and Kelly and Shelbourne, Sherry Ann. Oh God, these names, Kelly Ann, Sherry Ann, terrible names. God forgive me. And we were talking about stuff like high strangeness, and all of a sudden I felt a push on my back, and I turned around, and of course there was nobody there, and she was like, "Oh, I saw you jerk forward." It didn't freak me out. It didn't scare me because I really believed it was my husband. I do. I really believe it was him. So I didn't get freaked out. So I've had a lot of stuff like that happen in my life, but not like UFO stuff. Like both of you have had like crazy encounters. I hate to say it, but I'm envious of them. But maybe someday.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the hope out there.
You got your day's coming, okay? Everybody's day is coming. Honestly, it is just normal for me in this lifetime. That's all. You know. It's normal. I'm swimming in it all the time. I've always been swimming in it. But everybody has that ability. Everybody has that time coming for them. You know.
I suspect that we kind of choose our lifetimes and what we want to achieve in each lifetime.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily involve what we call, quote, the paranormal.
Yeah.
And some people, they're just coming down to be an athlete or whatever, or to garden, or to raise kids, or to write that math formula.
Right.
Yeah.
Or invent the toilet. Thank God for Thomas Crapper.
Oh,
he changed
I know.
the world.
Lord,
That's his name.
Well, we believe too that I believe that we choose our parents too. And it's part of the learned lesson that we need to experience. But sometimes it's rough. And death doesn't scare me anymore. It just doesn't. Like, I'm not frightened of it or anything, because I know what to expect. I really do.
The dying process kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Exactly. It's how you're going to die.
Yeah. I wish that we would do something for ourselves. We all have big families, okay? And if somebody's passing in your family, instead of passively standing back from it, enjoying it into it with the people who are closest to it. In other words, in our family, we tend to all assemble for it. That's our way. We've always done that. And it's like a party going on while the person is going through that. And a couple of times I was with someone who was isolated. That was hard, okay? Because they're experiencing walking through, okay? That's how I look at that. You're walking through. Nothing bad is happening to you. It's all good. And they're experiencing things that they didn't experience in their lifetime. It's all opening up to them, and they're like, whoa. Wow. And it would be more fun for the people, and I'm saying fun or what's the word? Quantifying for those to go through it too, because then you learn, you watch it happen and you go, oh, no big deal. But it's better for the person who's walking through that you support them through it. We're all supported during birth. We have help. Some people have parties going on in the birth room with mothers, so half the family's there, That's a huge welcoming. Well, they're being welcomed too, and we could be part of that process. And I wish humanity would start seeing that it's not
It used
mysterious.
to be much more
Wow.
that way, until kind of the dissolution of the family during the industrial age and everything changed.
Yeah,
So
too many
true.
people had too many rules about too many things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
But here, let me see. We got only a couple, no real questions, except here's one from Peak, which she asked right from the beginning.
okay.
I think this might be aimed towards you, Dolly, more than Carolann, but this is the question either way. How can I judge if telepathic communication I'm having with ETs is real and valid now
That's
that I
question.
can't have conscious contact since they're gone? So I'm just putting that up because we're at the last 15 minutes of the show.
Yeah, that's a good
One
question
of the
too.
things that I would advise, and I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about this, but this is my advice. In any communication you have, verification is the most important thing. If you tell me something, I have the ability to verify it or not here. And I have methodology to do that. When you're having a communication with ET, verify what they say to you, find the validity of it, because they're not going to impart things to you that are unverifiable. They will verify something to you. And that's what you need to do. That's how you prove to yourself this is a real thing. You don't go on faith, you go or belief, you go on empirical data. I'll give you, for instance, when I was 14, I put a real big one out there. Okay. I decided that I needed to know something and I was determined to find out what it was. Okay. And I didn't need mama or Talata for this one. It was right out there into the general public of ETs. And I knew somebody would answer me and I was waiting for it. And I got the answer. I got a download. Oh my God, I got a download. It took me a week to sort through it. It was scientific. I had to go to my physics teacher about it and put it forth to my physics teacher and said, is this possible? Okay. And the look I got was, oh my God, they're doing this. I went, really? And he's like, yes. And he showed me evidence of it and showed me how to go find out for myself. And I was like, this is fantastic, because what he described to me in the download was exactly what we're working on at the time. And this is all the way back in 1974. Okay.
Wow.
And I went, okay. So, because every now and then you have to prove to yourself that you're not slap out of your mind. Okay. When I'm in communication with Talata, I know it's real. Okay. It's so real. It's unbelievably real. Okay.
Well, you have practice too. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Mama's the same way. But I have other ETs sometimes come at me and I'm like, I will vet them. I'm not kidding you, because you don't know who's shooting you information from where. ET
Right.
doesn't wear a sign that says I'm the real deal. You have to understand what they're saying to you and vet it for yourself, because there's plenty of stuff on this planet that's aiming stuff at you that's not okay. And you have to learn to be discerning about it and ferret out the truth of it.
Yeah.
Great
Talk about conspiracies, some of these psychotronic technologies.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Our
crazy.
thoughts are not our own anymore. You know, it's
Well,
scary.
they're all your own, but now you're being invaded. With yeah,
And that's
most people know
really
that.
scary. It's real. It's real weaponization of that the government's using. You know, to. Did you see that video? I forget if it was what country it was. I don't want to. No, it wasn't Cuba. Good Lord, I forgot. But there was a massive crowd of protesters, and thousands of them. And then all of a sudden they shot this energy weapon into the crowd. You couldn't hear a thing, but all the people's bodies just, and it's on video, you could see it, just dispersed. Like you could see in the video that something was being thrusted. I have to find the video because it's crazy.
Was it in this country?
No, it was like, I want to say it was like, wasn't Cuba.
I haven't heard this. You think it's a real video?
Video. Oh yeah, it's totally real. It's totally legit. I'll send it to you, Preston and Dolly. Okay. It's legit. It was a weapon they used to disperse the crowd.
Who did they say the weapon was being operated by?
They never admitted to it. Because this reporter went to this government. I wish it'll come to me.
Can I tell you a secret? I want you to understand something, because if you have a real heavy foundation in science and understand energy and stuff like that, the very first thing that I thought when you told me this is that malarkey is disinformation. Because anything that could physically affect anybody, mentally or whatever, is a high energy field. And it would have either A, burnt them, made people have heart attacks or burst aneurysms. They could have fallen down in dead faints, or it would have started seizures all over the place. You don't shoot that kind of energy into a crowd of people. And
Maybe
only
it's a sound weapon, a high frequency sound or something.
But I think they
then
said
they would have heard it. Everybody would have had a headache from it instantly. They would have been
it
trying to do
wasn't
this.
AI, the video. It was not AI generated. It was legit.
I don't believe any of it. I think it's misinformation and disinformation. Okay, that would have caused every
it's best
channel
to look
on
at the
the
video
planet.
before
Right.
I'll show you.
Because there was that whole Havana thing going on. Remember that?
The microwave transmission thing where people were,
Which apparently was legit. I mean, that did happen.
Yeah, but people were burned by that. They were physically, wretchedly experienced
damaged. They were damaged.
Damaged. And that's what I'm going back to saying, that if you shoot an energy beam down at anybody, there's going to be that kind of an effect. Not just people running from it. You're going to see people falling down, having seizures, having aneurysms, heart attacks, you name it. That's malarkey. I don't believe it. There's not a psychotronic anything that you can do that with. And that's my experience with ET as well. They don't even have anything like that. That's crazy. Okay. It's that's a fear-mongering kind of thing.
It could be propaganda. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let you look at it. I mean, it looked so real. It looks so
well, they can make everything look so real now. I know.
Whoever did a good job. Somebody asked a really good question. I just saw it, Preston, that a report that Trump said we have weapons that if you scroll up.
Here it is. Trump's recent comments about having technology that surpasses distance.
Time and
space. I've heard this. I don't know any real details on it.
You want to know something? If they're talking like that, they better start admitting that they back engineered stuff, okay? Because it's directly tied to that, okay? And I wonder if this president's going to actually try to do that or not. I don't know.
I think a lot of the presidents have really wanted to. Carter was like gung ho, and then no, I don't know what they did. Probably threatened. I suspect a lot of these people who really want to come forward are thwarted in some way or another.
Yeah.
I did read I'm going to admit something. I did read the transcript from that. And at one point he used the verbiage engineered, back engineered. It was like, and when you hear it, it was very quick. He said it very quickly. And I thought, oh, well, this is interesting. That's why it makes me think he's going to openly admit that we are back engineering stuff. That's
you imagine.
But I'm not going to hold my breath. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know what this is. I know that he's trying to tell the truth about something. We just have to wait and see and let it unfold. You don't tell people something like that without something happening after it. For a reaction, there's an equal opposite reaction. So I'm waiting to see what the reaction is to it. Not from us, but from them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it should be a very interesting year to see what comes out with the whole UFO field in general. Because
I'm so excited about it. I don't know. I don't trust the government. I always think of that song by Pink Floyd, the lyrics, "Mother, should I trust the government?" And it's funny because my daughter, every time I call her, she answers the phone and says, "Mother, should I trust the government?" Every time. But I just don't trust the government. But disclosure is the hot topic, Preston, as you know. That's all we're talking about. ATIB and disclosure. And so we'll see. I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of do. I don't think they're ever really going to truly disclose. It's going to be a miracle if it happens, honestly. Okay. I think the dog and pony show, and we're just being, like I said, you use fear tactics to move the crowd the way you want them to go. Okay?
It will never be fully, and it will never be voluntarily. Yeah, they'll do it bits and pieces and kicking and screaming.
What do you think of Skywatcher, Psionics program? Preston?
I will give people the credit for entering into this field and trying to make this subject, well known, but I don't believe for 1 second that you can fool ET using psionic technology and call them down and shoot them down. That is 100%.
Misinformation.
I don't believe it.
Disinformation. I think that
I don't
that's
think it's
part
true.
of
They
the false
want to
flag.
shoot them down, though.
How do you
They-
convince people it's a false flag, period, the end? Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to convince people that ET are evil and they're coming to hurt you, you have to set it up. Okay. You have to write the narrative. And I think this is the narrative we're being fed now. When I tell you ET is not here, they are not here. And this is all, you know what? Okay. It's a false flag. And it's sad to me that just like with certain other things that went on in our country in the last 5 years, where people automatically believed and did what they were told to do, that this is going to happen and you're going to see that happen again. And that's why I say, wake up, find your autonomy. Remember that you're in control of you, not them,
Yeah, but they can't pull off like Project Blue Beam because we all know about it. So how could they pull something like that off? Everybody knows.
And me and Dolly and, people who are watching this show, but most of the people in the world, I'm not so sure that they're fully
I think
aware of
one
this.
in 1,000 might have some idea. That's it. That's all.
What? I would think it would be more
No.
based on what I'm seeing
No.
on social media. It seems like
Yeah.
so many people know.
I've said this words to some people in Europe, and they were like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Really?
Yeah, they don't know. I'll give you 3 countries that would have some idea. It would be Canada, us, and Australia. Those
Yeah.
are the, in South America, they know it, but it's our guys telling them, literally, in South America. Okay, South America is a whole nother ball game.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's too much going on there, and we have a lot to do with it, and that saddens me as well. Okay,
Well, I think they're disclosing more to their people than we're getting.
I
In
think
some
they're
ways,
disclosing misinformation and disinformation. I think the false flag is going to come from there, honestly.
yeah,
Seriously.
but what they have said more unequivocally is that UFOs are real. Mexico has pretty much said it, and they're
Right.
real,
Exactly.
which is
Yeah.
more than we've done. And I mean, now we've done that, but they're still like, well, it could be China. I mean, they literally say this.
They're always like changing, every report they come out, they contradict themselves. It's like you said, it's misinformation and
disinformation. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, nobody's on the same page. Nobody is classically ferreting this out. They're just all talking without literally seriously looking at all the points of information and then making up their mind what they might think about it. They're just going off half.
We're going to do another Q&A. We have to. I think it's about time. But at any rate, we've got like 3 minutes left, Carolann. Time
Sure.
goes quickly when we do these shows.
Oh my God, I
But
can't
you've
believe
got a
it.
lot, here. I'm going to put up some banners because go to the show notes. Carol Ann has a lot of wonderful links there.
Yeah, and definitely check out her show every Thursday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because it's fantastic. You all need to check it out. She's
What day was it again? Tuesday? Thursday.
And Fridays I have for folks that can't make the live, I do pre-recordings and they air between 3 and 5 p.m. EST, and they're great too. So Thursday and Friday. Thursdays are live, Fridays are pre-recordings. So thank you all so much. I appreciate the support. And Dolly and Preston, much love and light.
Okay, one quick question. When are you going to write a book?
Yeah.
I want to write a book with you, Preston.
You should. He'll help you. Honestly, just start writing. Get some notebooks and start cracking it out.
I can absolutely help you through every step of the process, but you have the gift. I read the words, you can do it. It's just a matter of doing it.
But that's a good idea with the book idea you had before. I love that.
Yeah, someone said, do it. Get it released by Mother's Day. Okay. I'll write on that. When is Mother's Day?
May the 11th.
That gives me...
Yeah.
All right, I have 3 weeks.
I can't wait for... We don't know the title yet, right? It's not Symmetry 2.
No.
It's a really cool title, though.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's actually it's a meaning that was lost. Okay, it's a word that has a meaning and it's lost.
Yeah, we had a big discussion about it. I'm like, Dolly, I can't find this in the dictionary.
Of course you don't.
And at one point she found it. I'm like, okay, can't find it now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know who's listening to me talk.
She
And
showed it to me. I'm like, okay, well, there it is.
yeah, yeah,
Question now, when you release the book, will you let me interview you guys, please?
sure. But Michelle gets first dibs.
Of
Just
course she
saying.
does.
Yes,
Of
of
course.
course she does. Yes,
Of
but yeah,
course.
right behind it. If you want to come on with us and be co-interviewers, you can. Although I
Oh.
don't know, you have to talk to Amelia about that. Amelia might fight you for it, but yeah, you know.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
But thank you both so much.
You're welcome, and thank you. It's
All right.
absolutely special. Thank you very much. We love you. Okay.
Well, we have to say goodnight, folks. Thank you all. We love you so much. Thanks for joining us. Namaste, you guys. I have to give you a special thanks, Bob. You guys are amazing. Sunny, you guys, this helps us so much. Every little bit
Yep.
means an enormous amount to our
Absolutely.
hearts and definitely helps us to do this show. But yeah, just you guys showing up is
Yeah.
all the,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you guys. We'll definitely be seeing you, I hope, next Monday. Carolann, thank you. All right, Dolly, take us home.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all so much for coming to us on this wonderful Monday night at the Light Gate. We are coming to you live from New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we're on Roku, we are on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. Everybody, please have a blessed, beautiful week. Be in joy. We love you all very much. Mwah. See you later. Now I need to find. Yeah. Love you all. Bye.